All right. Welcome to If They Won't Listens, episode 25 with our guest Dani from her show Morning Bliss with Dani. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for coming
Good.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited.
Awesome. What's going on with you, Topher?
Brother, same old, same old. It's been a busy weekend. Usually I get to relax a little bit. I didn't get much of that until this morning. Yesterday was busy running around, being an adult, doing errands, whatever, and networking because I'm all over Instagram. I swear I spend more time on Instagram than anything else these days.
I've distanced it. I've been on social media since I had a laptop when I was 11, and my grandmother had one for almost 2 decades at that point, even though the first version was like a tiny little screen. But I was teaching her stuff immediately, and so I distanced myself. Like I kind of like if when I sit on my couch and I watch TV, my phone's off my lap. I don't want to double engage, and it helps a little. But no, I use it too much. And we touched on it right before we started recording. But I've been reading up on a lot of weather today. I came across this like post on Facebook, and I've been in a rabbit hole for an hour. um so do you guys know anything about like the Arctic Circle and what goes on up there?
A little. I don't remember the last time I've ever looked up anything on that.
Yeah, no, I knew nothing about it. I mean, if someone were to ask me about it based on Arctic, I would have told you it's probably cold. Um,
That's about right.
yeah. But due to the what we're calling in a politically correct sense global warming, there's a lot of changes up there. Like there's algae and there's actual grass and shrubbery that's 4 times as big as it's ever been before, and there's just so many weird effects. Lightning hasn't struck closer than 300 miles to the North Pole ever, and prior to like in the last 3 years, it was thousands of miles away. Like
Wow.
I don't know if you guys know, but lightning strikes mostly around the equator. It's like perfect warmth conditions, and thunderstorms are prime for it. So for it to happen in freezing cold at the top of the world is really uncommon. And that was part of the article. I don't know. It was wicked interesting to me, but it's the stuff up there is getting a lot different. And they're talking about how there's might be species of birds that if they notice that the climate's different in the north, they might, instead of flying south, fly north. And it's like, well, that could mess up food patterns for native
Yeah.
tribes. And yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if you have the same type of issue not issue, but the same type of migration patterns roll through there with Canadian geese. But I've noticed they've been sticking around longer and longer and longer, every year. It's kind of
Right.
weird.
Yeah. Well,
They disappear in the late fall, and then we see them come back through, early spring, and now they're here most of the year round.
wow. Yeah. I was going to say here, we're in Minnesota. And so right now it is dead cold. It is freezing. There is nothing left here. But I've definitely noticed a lot of the birds are staying around a little bit longer, especially this last year. It was probably the warmest I've seen Minnesota since I've moved here. So yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
So do you guys normally, get snow or?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Yes, very much. Get snow, we get it all. And like I said, right now it's freezing cold. So a lot of ice, just very frigid winters.
I saw a bunch of weather reports when I was looking up stuff, and the headlines today, and it seems like a lot of the country is getting whacked. Texas is colder than Vermont right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Texas is 10 Fahrenheit, and like I lived there in 2012 for a year. It was 110, but it was dry heat, and so like there was people in a sweatshirt in 110, and like it
That's
wasn't
crazy.
unbearable. Like it's not like I don't know if you've ever been to like the really far point of like the East Coast. The humidity out here at 70, it can feel like 100 with
Mm-hmm.
that, just it's dreadful. And so I looked at the temperature. I was like, it's 10. Like I was there and it was 100 degrees hotter.
Yeah, it is nuts to see how cold it is getting down there. Like you would never guess. You can't even run away from here because it's just as cold everywhere.
That's crazy. Are you guys? Do you have a lot of mountains down there, or are you kind of flat? Geography is my Achilles heel, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, that's good. If you go northern Minnesota, like the Duluth kind of area, getting closer to the Canadian border, it's a lot more mountains, and very forest-like. Southern Minnesota is definitely all flat, more farm, plains, things like that are more down here. So
Okay.
yeah.
Vermont's crazy. I'm a city boy. I mean, I'm not so I grew up in between southern New Hampshire and like Boston, Massachusetts.
Mhm.
So I was born right on the town line. And so I kind
Oh
of
wow.
got to experience the city and like, the sticks of the country at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, and it was pretty cool, but coming out to Vermont after living in New Hampshire and Mass and Texas, this place is unique. Like
Oh, I
this
bet.
is
Yeah.
have you ever had the delight of coming down here?
I haven't. No, nope. The farthest over I've ever been is obviously like Wisconsin and then Florida. I've never been anywhere up beyond that. So,
Okay. I've been to Florida a bunch of times. Where have you been in Florida?
so a couple times between Orlando, I've been to Tampa, I've been to Clearwater Beach, and then now my in-laws actually live over by Panama City Beach, so we go to northern Florida quite often.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I went to Orlando twice. Once on my grandmother was a realtor, and so used to go to conferences, and so
Mhm.
we went down there twice for that. And I had relatives in Tallahassee, so one of the times we went down there, we hitched a ride up to Tallahassee and hung out. And alligators are crazy different.
Yes. And they're just kind of everywhere. Like I had seen one on our way home on the way to the airport. It was just walking across the road. You'll just own the place.
I mean, I saw my first bear since I moved to Vermont, just driving a truck at, the job I was actually working with him, and just ran across the street, just a bear. And I was like, wow, like that could have happened in northern
Yeah.
Mass or
Mhm.
eastern Mass, but wow, it's amazing. Have you ever seen a moose?
I have not in real life. That is for sure.
I haven't either. I'm dying to. Topher, have you gotten
Yes.
a
They're
chance?
huge. We had
Are they?
when I was a kid, I was still in Barstow. I was still in like elementary school, or like fifth, maybe sixth grade. Everybody stopped everything, and every school, the younger grades, had field trips to go to this one farm because this cow had wandered onto the farm and was hanging out with this moose, or the moose had wandered onto the farm and was hanging out with this cow. The cow's name was Jessica. Everybody named the moose Bullwinkle. There was, yeah, it was all over in the papers, and I mean, we didn't, okay, that's dating myself, but
We know you're old.
That's
That's
cute
okay.
though.
we
It's
didn't
cute.
have internet, we didn't have social media at that point, but it was all over the place. I've seen a couple since then, but not really up close, which is probably a good thing because I've heard they're kind of mean, or they can be.
Yeah, I wouldn't get close, especially like if I saw how big they were. Like I'm 6'3". I feel like a tall guy. I'm not huge width wise, but I'm tall, and I feel like that would make me feel inferior fast.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I new coworker at my new job has grew up in Danby, and so it's a town out here, and it's just there's nothing there. Like there's not a store, there's not a gas station, there's like you sleep and die there. Like
Danby is one of the towns that everybody makes jokes about. Like, they invented the toothbrush in Danby, Vermont, and it had been invented anywhere else, it would have been called the teeth brush. Yeah, that kind of town.
It's really
Yes.
crazy. It's backwoods, super, like to say that you will see mobile homes, you know what I mean, in the middle of a farm field is like it's expected. And it's like
Yeah,
it's really
big trailer park.
yeah, it has a cool cool aesthetic though, because like I'm used to trailer parks in the city where you're not on a beautiful piece of land with a gorgeous sunset on the top of a mountain. You're in a trailer trash neighborhood. Like it's terrible. But somehow you can have a crappy house and be on a beautiful piece of land, and it's just the contrast is still elegant. Um, but he was telling me about this awesome hill that he's been climbing since he was a kid, and we're gonna go up there. But so it's a 3-hour walk to the rock face that you then have to climb to get to the top. And so it's like imagine a mountain, and you take a 3-hour hike, and then you reach a rock face that's he says at full climb, full speed, as safe as possible, you're climbing vertically for like half an hour.
Oh
So
my gosh.
and he's like, yeah, there's a high potential for falling off. People have died there, none of my friends, but it's happened, and it, chalk it up to idiocy or an accident. You can be really good and mess up, but it's so cool to me, in my young age, I want to do the stupid stuff, but safely, and he said the first time he went up was when he was 14. He's been doing it his whole life. So, and I trust that. I got 6 inches more on each of my arms. I'm like 6 inches taller than this kid. If he can climb it, I can climb it. I'm even lighter. Like this.
Right? Absolutely.
So I'm super excited, but it's just so interesting to me. Like, and we were crying on the drive home when he was telling me about one of the times he went up there with 2 of his friends. So they each divvied up food and a tent and, beers and stuff to make a fire. Cause you're up so high. There's only tiny little trees. There's so much wind. I don't know. It's not, as he explained it, it's not trees. It's just little twigs. And so they divvy all that up. They make the climb, they make the hike. He said, like, if it's sunset at 5, we need to start climbing at noon to guarantee if with a break we'll get there. Cause you don't want to be halfway up the rock face when the sun sets. It's asking for bad luck.
Absolutely.
And so nonetheless, they get up there. So they're 4 hours into the journey if they didn't take a break, or 3.5 if they went really well. 3 people, they set up the tent, they get the fire going, and one of the kids goes right when the sun's about to set, I want to go home. I don't like this. And he's up there. Like he's up there, and he's with 2 people who, my friend and my friend's friend, who both knew what they were doing. And so he's like, we told him not to leave, but he's an adult. So he left, and we were like, I was like, whoa, what happened? And I'm riveted listening to my friend explain this to me. And he says, well, next morning we wake up and we pack the tent up, we pack the gear up, and it was a lot more gear, only 2 people, 3 people worth of gear. Took a while. We make our trek down the mountain. We get back. His car's still there. And now it's been like 16 hours since he left. And they were like, oh my God, what happened? And they said that they hung out by his car for like 3 hours, and they obviously made the proper phone calls or whatever, but they just waited and waited. And what were you gonna do? Call 911 and be like, yo, there's someone in the forest somewhere. Like, thanks, well, look, so, but I guess after like 3 hours, so 16 hours of him being gone, and then 5 of that being their trek down the mountain. Once they got to the car, they waited 3 or 4 hours. So we're talking 19, 20 hours in, he's gone, and he comes walking out of the forest crying. And he spent the whole night just lost in the dark, in the mountains, in the forest. And
that's terrible.
there was just this feeling. I mean, I was hysterically laughing because I'm thinking about, like, if it was one of my idiot friends, like, and now we know he's safe. Now,
yes, that's a good thing.
But like, oh my God, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. He told me today when we were ice fishing, we didn't catch a single thing. We're out there 3 hours, froze our butts off, didn't catch anything, but he told me that story, and I'm going to go up there, but it has had me on the edge of my seat thinking about, like, have you guys ever done anything like that where someone told you about doing something and then you tried to commit and then were like, no, I'm okay.
Not personally really for me. I definitely get scared, but I'm usually the adventure goer, and I'm like, let's do it. Let's just jump in. It's going to happen. And so I just go for it.
Hell yeah. What about you, Topher? Anything come to mind? Is there anything like any cliffs you wish you didn't jump off before you hit the water?
In midair, yes.
After, when everyone thought you were cool, you were like, nah.
Once hit the water, it's all good. I am okay, and you know this about me. I am scared shitless of heights. Heights really bother me, and it's weird because if I'm suspended from something, I'm good. Doesn't matter how high up I am. If I'm on something that's attached to the ground, and actually, I think I might have figured that out because within the last, well, Ricky knows, but within the last like 6 months, I had a couple episodes of just straight dizzy. Like I wake up in the morning so dizzy I could barely get out of bed. I had to call out of work the first day for it and ended up out for like 2-3 days. So I go to the doctor and he tells me it's vertigo. I'm like, okay, great. So what do I do about this? Well, here's these pills that don't work. So it's just something that I guess I have to live with, but it seems like now that I think about it, I might have always had a touch of it. It just kind of getting older and it reared its ugly head and said, hi, look at me. or better yet, close your eyes because you're gonna puke if you don't.
Pretty much.
It's not quite that bad. I've heard a lot of people actually have a really bad issue with it. And the ones that have really, really bad vertigo, they'll wake up in the morning and get so dizzy and messed up in the head because of it that they will just puke and have a migraine all day. And it's almost debilitating. So I consider myself lucky that it's a mild case. But anyway, the scared of heights thing. So I love roller coasters.
That's awesome. You would never think that for somebody who's scared of heights, though. I feel like I feel like I'd fall out.
I want to go bungee jumping. I love flying. I want to go skydiving. And once I get on, I'm good. The adrenaline rush is still there, how that goes. But once I get on, I'm good. Now the cliff, we have a spot down here, down on 103, headed out towards Ludlow from Rutland. The natives call it Swinging Bridge. And it used to be, they've reinforced it a little bit since then, but it used to just be cables across and, well, I mean, kind of railing, but not really, with the cables, and then a couple more cables and wooden slats. And it did sway back and forth. And we're not talking like a 10, 15 foot bridge. We're talking a good 50-foot bridge.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, on the one side of it, there's a cliff that used to be you could jump off because there was a pool about 15 by 15 at the bottom. That, of course, we're trying to jump into a glass of water from 100 feet in the air.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that was fun, and that would be the one. Yeah, on the way down, I'm like, oh, my life. And by the time you hit the bottom and you get in the pool and you realize you're okay and you didn't hit the rocks, you're good to go.
Right.
Yep, let's go again.
Yes, that sigh of relief, and it's like, yes, now the adrenaline's there. Keep going. Yes. Do it again.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
I've gotten lucky quite a few times jumping off roofs into pools at people's houses, and I've scuffed my ankle, like sprained my ankle. You know what I mean? You hit the water and you go paper to try to mitigate how fast you're falling through it, but it's only 8 or 10, super 12 feet if you got a really good pool and you whack off the bottom. But I've never gone skydiving. I really want to go. I'm gonna be terrified. I hate roller coasters and I hate planes. I've been on a plane like 10 times and I've been on a roller coaster a few times. I even enjoyed a roller coaster drunk once, but I'm going to call that the exception, not the rule. What is vertigo though? Like, I'm just like, if someone were to ask me to describe it, I know sometimes people get it from flying, right? Is it like jet lag or something?
I think it's kind of ultimately not really an inner ear problem, but kind of, it's like almost equilibrium, a balance issue, but yeah, it's almost a balance issue, but not really. It's the best way I can describe it, to the degree I get it. It's like having a really, really, really good drunk on without the, hey, guess what I did? It's like it's fine because when you've been drinking and you get a little tipsy and you get the spins, you're like, all right, yeah, I'm good. Maybe I need to sit down for a minute, but it's been a hell of a night. No, this is wake up in the morning, sit up and go, oh, fuck.
I've never
Somebody
had that.
Stop this thing. I need to get off.
Have you ever experienced that, Dani?
No, I haven't, but I've actually worked in a physical therapy department for the clinic that I currently work for. And we had, plenty of patients who came in with vertigo. And just like he said too, it really is kind of like that balance, almost like you feel really off balance from what I've heard from people. And then also, like he said too, there's a lot of people who have it worse than others. And it includes throwing up. It includes not being able to walk. Like, people end up having to do a lot of different exercises to try and almost regain their balance back, or let alone to not feel so dizzy and have those migraines where they can actually be stable, normal people again.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah, I've never heard about it to that extent. That's definitely interesting. I had listening to you describe the extent that can go. It made me think of a time that I swear to God, I was only like 17 and I threw my back out. I don't know what prefaced and what was the context of it, but I woke up in the morning and I was with my girlfriend and I literally I slid my closet door open at my apartment and reached up onto a shelf and I just felt something click and it was like click and I was like, oh, and I just hit the floor and started crying and it was like the most just debilitating pain. And my girlfriend literally had to like drag me across the parking lot because she couldn't pick me up to get me in the car. And I felt like such a sad sack. But I forget what the diagnosis was. Obviously some problem with the bones or the vertebrae in my back or something. But it was a manner of like a muscle spasm. So it super simple and to fix. At least it was like 2 days, lay down, you know what I mean, heat, cold, and relax or whatever.
Yep.
But God, that was weird. With respect to the old man in the chat, I don't want to know what it feels like to start getting there. I try to think about my body with 20 more years on it and it's like
Yeah, no, and it's not necessarily as bad as all that all the time either. It just kind of is what it is.
I feel like a lot of it's wisdom. Like, you meet a lot of old, wise old men and they move slow, but they know a lot.
They do, yep.
It's a blessing and a curse. I don't know. I
don't know what you're talking about. I work circles around you and you know it.
Well, keep it up. My great grandmother was. I want to be like her, and I don't want to be like her. I mean, she was nonstop work straight until she passed away. Like literally, it was like 2 summers ago now, and she was 94 when she passed, and up until 90. She outlived all of her siblings, most of her, basically everyone she went to school with. You know what I mean? She was top percentile for, she was born like, I want to say late 20s. I think she was born like 29 or 27. I think that might compute. I don't know. Give or take half a decade from a century.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But no, she was great. She had 3 strokes on her left side and 2 on her right. And, the nursing home was like, okay, settle down. You're going to be here. And she was like, no, I got to get home. Like, I got a driveway to shovel. I got plans to tend to next summer. She was planning stuff for years out. She would date stuff in the freezer for like occasions that were 3 years away. So I'd get to her house and be like, hey, Nani, how you doing? And she'd scurry over and hug us and be like, oh, the soup's on, and run over. And we're like, I thought you said we're having spaghetti. Oh, well, we are. The spaghetti's in the oven, but I'm making soup for next year. And it's just, we're like, okay. And she was, her grandparents were like from Italy, or maybe 2 sets of grandparents beyond her, but they were very Italian and like shove food in your face all the time.
That's good. That's good food then too.
Yeah,
Yeah, usually.
Wasn't bad. Do you have any family traditions like that with your I want to say heritage, but that might be the wrong word.
Definitely, I would say for a lot of random things that they do. So maybe not quite dated like that, but my grandma's definitely that type of person who will cook a million things. Like even just going to her house on a Sunday after church or something, she would have a full like ham, Thanksgiving, Christmas meal, whatever you want to call it. It was a full meal all the time. And we would all just be sitting there watching football, but we had a Thanksgiving dinner every Sunday.
That's awesome.
The things that grandma does.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I love Thanksgiving.
This year I did not. This is the first year I didn't, and I probably should have, because it's the first team that got to be in their own stadium and win at the same time. So
is it really?
Yep.
Wow, I watched it. I didn't even know that.
Yes, they are the first ones in their own stadium to fully win their Super Bowl. So that was really cool. But I didn't watch it.
So not that you're the expert, but what dictates that? So like, is it just a coin flip, or how do you end up?
I don't know. I don't know how they choose stadiums for where, because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, and that was that year that Minnesota had their big, like we almost made it to the Super Bowl, and that would have been the first stadium, or I should say our new stadium, and the first Super Bowl for us here like that, and to be home, and that would have been awesome, but that didn't happen either. So I don't really know what dictates where they get to go, but it's kind of interesting to see all the different stadiums get really big and really exciting. Like Minneapolis went all out, they redid kind of the downtown, and they were of course planning for everything at the airport for all these people to fly in. And I mean, it was a big deal around here to have the Super Bowl that year. So
No, it brings a lot of wealth into the, the place that they have it. It's kind of like a gift. Like, here, have
Yeah,
some revenue from the
right.
world. People from all over the world want to come to see this. I felt so silly. I'm not gonna lie. The one thing that really turned me off, not to mention COVID, being so weird. It's kind of just like it's shaken the schedule we've all had. I've never
Mhm.
missed the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't have watched it this year if there wasn't an opportunity to do the show and the Super Bowl, which was his idea,
Yeah.
and it was a good idea. But God, I told them, they were like, we should do something for the Super Bowl, or he suggested that, and I was like, man, I don't want to watch it. Tom Brady's not in it. And they're like, no, he is. He's just not on the Patriots. And I was like, wait, what? Whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I knew he left the Patriots to another team, but I didn't know that that team was already in the Super Bowl like that fast from him leaving the Patriots. Like, call it serendipity or call it, did he have to work through this season to earn that? Or did he come onto the team with them holding the rank of going into the Super Bowl already? Do you know that?
I don't. I have not looked into that, but I guarantee my husband would. My husband would know that answer.
I I don't know. I've watched him ever since I was a kid, and after I heard he left. It's not that that was the key reason, but it was like that was enough of a push plus COVID to not have on football games.
Yeah.
And my girl doesn't really like watching football. She thinks it's dull and dry, and she's got a point. Like, from a third person perspective, if you don't understand the players and the games and the heads and stuff, it is just a pigskin. you know
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. I would probably say the same thing back in high school. But then once you get married to somebody who's really into that, then, and of course, he was a quarterback himself, my husband was. So football really has become the big thing. And now it's really easy to watch. I feel like when you're a kid, you just follow whatever your parents do. And so if your parents like this team, you like that team too. And you don't really know any different. And so that's kind of how I started. But now I really get into like who's the players, and I like the NBA draft and NFL drafts and all these different sport things that I would have never thought of.
That's really cool. I've never watched a basketball game, but I know, as far as athletes go, they're up there for stamina skill. That
Mm-hmm.
game is ridiculous. It's a 60-second clock, right? From side to side, like
Mm-hmm.
possession. You only get 60 seconds
Yep.
to hold it, and then it has to pass. And it's like, that's insane.
Oh yeah.
The first
Yeah,
time I
some of
learned
those
that.
Crazy.
games go up in the hundreds for points too. They're
Yeah.
hustling. They don't stop moving that entire time they're on the
Yes.
court.
Oh yeah. Some of these last few games in the last week here have been kind of wicked with that too. So it's been very good.
So, are they doing stadiumless, or are they doing it like every 3 seats, or do you know how like COVID's
Um,
going with sports right now for NBA? Or
Oh, I want to say, don't quote me on this. I want
yeah,
to say
yeah.
there's been a few teams that, of course, have had fans, but most of them have still been fanless. But
Mm-hmm.
I think, but I feel like that's even the same with football. Like I've seen a few stadiums, who had the people in it,
Yeah.
and then there were others who didn't. Like Minnesota, we're still on lockdown right now. That the Vikings couldn't have anybody in theirs. So, and so
Yeah.
the Timberwolves can't do it.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I'd love to touch on COVID. I just found out today that an
You
acquaintance of
want
my
to touch
fan,
COVID? Why?
uh, one of my acquaintances has COVID right now. Like, their grandfather got it, and they hung out, and no one I'd been in contact with. I mean, shit, I haven't seen him in months and months. So it's like outside my inner circle of like who I see. But I found out, oh, they had COVID, and so their daughter actually lives in Alaska. She just moved there like last year. And so she came back to visit, and you know what I mean? They would have probably came to my daughter's birthday party if they didn't have it, and due to precautions and stuff. But yeah, she said that she's pissed because Alaska just canceled COVID. They were like, yeah, it's over. No masks, no anything. It's done. It's over. Give it up. And so like they're 100% off it. It's not a
They're
thing.
going. Yeah.
Like, and upon research about lightning that I did for an hour before the show, which seemed way more, it still seems way more exciting to me. I found out that there's I don't know, it was like 143 countries that have no plan for the vaccine right now. And not that, just like, you can't like be mad at the country who didn't have the infrastructure for that,
Mhm.
but it's just interesting that, like, when you think about it statistically, if only 60% of the world is involved in this, it's not going to be effective. Like,
Right.
too many hands high five for 6/10 of us to be working.
Hmm.
Have you gotten the vaccine, dude, at all?
Nope. So I actually chose against it right now. I think I'd really like to see a little bit more come out with it first before I do. But I'm usually, a very pro-vaccine person, like obviously with kids and everything else. But this one I kind of held off for just a little bit. So then when I feel like it's a little bit more safe or maybe just a little bit more research behind it, then I'll probably do it. So
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm kind of on the wait and see thing. And I've done a bunch of research into it, but it comes down to the whole, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I mean, I enjoy the theories and I'm not shunning them, but
You love it. Don't even lie.
right?
I-
Just love it.
I don't want to, believe in planned obsolescence. Like someone who would tell me this helps me and knows it hurts me, but is like, you're gonna pay me, and like I don't like that form of thought. But I won't dispute that it's happened before. But my understanding of this is that it was made the way we make vaccines. It's just a vaccine that we've never made before. Like normally we give you part of a disease and that helps your body build up, hopefully the defense to it for the future. This is just, like a special type of coding for our body kind of that jumpstarts our immune system or something. And I don't know. That's how it read to me in a third person article. But yeah, it's the first kind of its type. Like it might not be bad. It might be great.
Right.
Brand new.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me about it the most is one, the testing. They rushed it. I guarantee. I understand. I get it. I know why, but they still rushed it. There's not nearly enough, and we don't know what the hell these vaccines are going to do years down the road for anybody. And I mean, it could have issues. Reproductive system one way or the other. You could have kids born with more issues, third arms, shit like that. Who
Right.
knows?
If it was functional, that'd be a good thing. But I know you mean in a bad sense.
Exactly. But the other part of that is, how do I put this? Quite simply, the vaccines protect us from it, but we can still carry it all day and give it to somebody else. How the fuck is that helping anybody?
Right. Yes. Hugely agree. Well, kind of like the flu vaccine, they don't even know every year when they come out with the vaccine if it's even going to help with the strand that's coming out. Some years it's 30% effective, other years, it's 90 and it's great. And it's just, that's kind of the same thing, but yet more people will choose to get that vaccine. And so it's kind of like that. Do you do it? Do you not do it? And has it been out long enough for you to feel like you can do it? And I don't know, there's a big kind of controversy on both sides and you'll see both sides fight either way. So
viruses are proof of evolution.
Yeah.
I
They
really
evolve every day, and who's to say this isn't going to and hasn't been through the course of time that we've been dealing with it?
It already did. We've now got cases in the States, like confirmed. If you were to Google new strand of COVID, minus all the hype you'd get from crazy people, there really is. Like there's one in Europe that they kind of got a handle on things, and now it's mutated a little bit, and it's passed through enough people that it's a new type, and it just that much. So it's less deadly now, but it's more transmissible. At least it was in Europe, and that's now allegedly, in air quotes here for audio only people. That's allegedly in the US now. I came across that today too. But it's just it's so goddamn weird. I agree with you about the efficacy of a flu shot because I've never had a flu shot in my life. Like not because I disdain of them, but the whole idea of this year we were 10% effective as opposed to last year we were 80% effective. It's like, are you guessing? This is
right.
I'm not your guinea pig for fundamental science. Like if you know some shit, 2 + 2 is 4, shoot me in the arm. But if you're doing 2 plus parenthesis X is this variable, and it might be, then this might help you. And parenthesis, like that doesn't help me. I don't want your algebra equation in my body. And so it's so fucking weird. And I don't really know where it's gonna go from here. I hate to say it. My gut's telling me that COVID's just with us. Like, I mean, forever.
It's just another thing.
Like I wish it wasn't, but I don't know any other practical way to move on. Like I'd rather just start buying really cool masks that are really, like I don't know.
I kind of go with everything. Yeah.
It's just it's still affecting a lot. Like I never realized how much I appreciated like violate, like I heard from Jordan Peterson listening to one of his podcasts. He said a violation of expectation, and I pulled out my phone and wrote it down, and ever since I've thought of that. And like it violates my expectation. When I used to go to the bar before COVID, I saw people there, and maybe there was a detail on someone that made me think they were an asshole, but that was up to my subjective, a paradigm of what I think makes someone an asshole.
Mhm.
So I was an asshole if I thought someone was an asshole. And now with COVID, if I go somewhere and there's 9 people with a mask and 1 without, it's like, okay, here, Steve, you know, um, and the whole lines in the grocery store, I'm for them. I'm the list guy. I got a whiteboard here. I got a whiteboard here. I've got 2 notebooks in arm's reach. I got pens. I'm the note guy. And people like, I'm standing in an aisle on the green arrow and someone's coming straight at me and expects me to move. And they're like, excuse me. And like, they'll almost tell me I'm in the way. And I'm like, bro, do you hear the loudspeaker telling you to please maintain distance from me, which you're not, and
Mhm.
go in the order which they posted in giant 3-foot green arrows and giant do not enter arrows opposing those? And I don't care. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be you're going the wrong way. I don't want to be him. But I'm that guy. I feel like I'm your age, Topher. Like, I feel like I'm the get off my lawn, kids. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of you. Like, COVID has turned me into a stickler. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen to the rules. I got my mask.
Mhm.
I brought my grocery bags because we're not serving plastic bags anymore. You know what?
Mhm.
I have everything I need. And they stopped couponing because they don't want to transmit COVID. I get it, but like, what's gonna happen to people who coupon? I feel like I don't know. It was a thing to me when I went to Shaw's the other day and I had some coupons. Has this had a close impact to you at all, Dani? Like, personally?
So a little bit yes and no. Honestly, no, we were really pretty much blessed in the fact that it didn't affect my husband and I's job at all. So I feel really bad for the people it did. It did probably cause a lot of havoc for a lot of people. But for us, our jobs kind of went normal. My husband works for a DC for Walmart, actually. So Walmart's still open. Walmart's kept going. So he has to get that out there. And then I work, of course, in health. So healthcare never stops either. So,
yeah,
which is awesome. But no, actually, the only thing that probably affected us the most is our kids went home. They were here the whole time for school. And so it was a lot of learning how to make sure that they are prioritized, organized, kind of everything at their age. And that's not something you usually learn really early in elementary. You kind of learn that late middle school, high school. And so that was probably our biggest challenge, is that they were here all the time. And my oldest did great. My second probably needed more of the help, needed the structure of like a school setting and not having home as his free roam all day long.
Yeah. I was blessed. I mean, it messed up my job, and I've now since changed jobs due to it. I mean, what when I was a kid, what was considered just blatant irresponsibility to call out of work for having the cough like you would have now and be called out for, like,
It's commonplace.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I could
Mhm.
puke twice. My boss would be like, you got to puke 2 more times before I let you go.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, yes, boss. And, you know what I mean? I wanted the money, needed the money, whatever. And now I think about it, it was like, I smoked cigarettes, for 11 years, and I'm 26. So about pack a day from when I was 14, and I quit like 10 months ago. And the big problem I had with my job was after I quit, about 2 or 3 months in, my body started cleaning itself. And I started hawking up black tar, and I could not help it. If I exerted pressure on my lungs clean themselves more. The more they clean themselves, it had to come out. It can't go out the way normal stuff goes out. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So I couldn't work, and I was out of work for 9 weeks because I was trying to be healthier. It was like, it was so counterintuitive. Like, oh, I want to quit cigarettes. This is the normal physiological response of quitting cigarettes. You're not allowed to be here. COVID test says no, but COVID tests aren't good enough. Blanket statement, crazy warning, go home. And it's like, I didn't argue. I was getting good unemployment for a while. And as the breadwinner, to be home and paid was like, well, where do I sign?
Why
Let's
not?
go,
Yes.
And fast forward quite a few weeks, and it's like, okay, I've watched every movie I own. Netflix is over. I'm done playing games. My fingers hurt. I have arthritis. I've played every game with my daughter I could play with. She's dipped every toy in the house in ranch. I've cleaned every toy in the house.
At least once.
At least.
We got some really cool birthday toys. One of her grandmother on my side got a little birthday tent And when I first opened it, I was like, this is the biggest piece of shit. So it's sewn. So when you're inside, it's pretty. So if you can imagine, the outside of it is all the sew lines and the where they attach the fabric and the little, frilly stuff. And so it looked like crap from the outside. I'm building this thing. I'm like, who in the hell would buy it? And once it was built, it was so cute from the inside.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was just little like PVC pipes, and you put it together like you put a tent together. And it was one of those add-on Amazon deals. So at the bottom, before you checked out, it was like, you can add this, it fits perfectly with it. And so she ordered like a 3-inch memory foam mat that was octagonal, like the shape of the little tent. And so it has a memory foam carpet in it, in the little princess tent, and it's got little doors on all sides of it. And we bought lights for it and stuff. A super cheap Amazon thing that turned into a really cool thing. We were sitting in there playing toys, and I don't know, it was a really cool gift to have.
Absolutely. It sounds like you enjoy it probably a little more than her.
I like being able to fit in kids' toys. I'm a very big person.
Yes, so, that's awesome.
And we just upgraded her. So she turned 3 today. And we just upgraded her from the toddler size mattress, whatever size that's considered, to we got her a twin bed.
Cute.
So she's huge. So she's 99th percentile for height, or at least we have to bring her to her 3-year-old checkup. So I can't wait to see where she stack ranks now. But she's 3. I'm 6'3", maybe 6'2.5" on a bad day. And she's up to almost like my belt buckle. It's insane. Like, she's half my look. Comparing her to mom is ridiculous. It's like, you're gonna lose. We're going to be the AT&T game, and you're going to be at the bottom real quick.
That's right.
My son is 14. He's almost as tall as I am, and his feet are bigger.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for that day when your son's like, you want to play basketball, Dad? I can dunk on you. Nope. We're done.
Be able to.
Yeah.
Probably could now.
Did you have any run-ins where you thought you had COVID, Dani?
Actually, no. Thankfully, nobody in our house did. The sad part was my daughter actually got strep maybe a month or 2 into it. And of course, she had to get the COVID test done. They run everything at that time. And it was that was probably the only time that anybody in this family has been tested for COVID. Otherwise, none of us got anything. So that was, all good on its own. But nope, nothing here. So we, like I said, knock on wood, stayed pretty safe during the whole thing for the last year.
That's really good. I think I had it, and when I had it, COVID wasn't a thing yet. So in January of last year,
it before it was cool.
Right.
I did. I was the OG COVID infectee. If we're gonna talk about it, like, I should get a plaque.
I think you were patient 0.
I might have been -1. I started it. I was in Wuhan. I opened the door and was like,
you
"Go,
did.
Charlotte, go
Don't
on."
You leave that monkey brains alone, dude.
No, so in a really weird way. So like, I was working 7 days a week, like 100-hour weeks, and I was making insane money during wedding season. I was doing maintenance and dishwashing for overtime, and so I'd work all day, 8-hour shift, take an hour nap in my car, clock back in, and work all night washing dishes for overtime. And it was delicious money, and massive abuse on my body and my psyche. But with some music or a podcast, I shuffled my way through it, and it was great. But so like, in the duration of that, I was like 3 weeks into it every day, perfectly fine. I would even get home and work out a little bit before bed. Like, I was in what I considered peak shape. And then I went to bed Sunday night, perfectly fine. Good night at work and everything. Got home, laid down, got home early, and less than 8 hours of sleep. And I woke up, and it's unlike anything I've ever had before. I woke up and I couldn't move. Like, it honestly felt like I was, the victim of a drive-by hit and run, and with a truck. It was insane. My wrist, my elbow, every spot that had a joint was massively fatigued, and my lungs hurt. I could barely breathe. Talking hurt. And like, it was so bad. My first response was 911. Like, you know what I mean? 25 years old, and woke up after working all night perfectly fine, and just, oh my God, 911. And it was a bilateral pneumonia, which is what they said COVID was later. But I did test positive for influenza A2.
Wow.
And at the time, the doctor was even like, that's pretty weird, because pneumonia is its own thing aside from influenza. Like, normally you're not going to get the flu with a pneumonia. That he just said they didn't present themselves at the same time. And fast forward a year, we now know that COVID was bilateral pneumonia in most people, and there was lots of influenza A going around, and there was people who had both, people who had the flu and COVID. It was like, so, but I from what I'm told, I'm too far down the line to get an antibody test now. Like if I had it, it might have naturally worked its way out. And so it's that weird
Yeah.
catch-22 game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say my best friend was kind of that same way. She actually came to my daughter's birthday party, and last year we had done that in a hotel, and her birthday fell literally, I think, a week before the world just shut down. And so that was, but she came, and of course that night as we're sleeping in a hotel, she's like, gosh, I just don't feel very good. And so she kind of just, chilled there, didn't feel really great. And then literally did the same thing like you did, it was just terrible, just could not shake it. And she's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And she's like, this is terrible. It was out all week. And then COVID literally shut down the world. She's like, maybe that was it.
Got it. Okay.
Yep, got it.
God, it is so crazy. Like it's even crazier to think about. Like I've heard of news before where like, big things happened in the 20s, and then in the 50s they were like terrible idea, it didn't work. And you know what I mean? So like I feel like in 10 years, all of us we're either all gonna be like, shit, you got your COVID shirt, 10th anniversary, or it's gonna be like, wow, what did we not know? Like because I don't think there's any one solution, but like, they're talking about herd immunity is it, maybe the way to fix it, but it's like, how many people have to die if
You're right.
if only 80-year-olds or, pass away? I don't think that's a good thing to stand off with. Like
You're
that's
right.
it's a lot of people. And I don't know. I've heard the argument both ways. Like if we just let people go around, like I think you need to be open. I I don't know. Do you think that in a state of emergency like this for the world, that there should be some precedence from here on out? You know what I mean? Like right now, and at least in the United States that we can talk about, every state gets to choose their own thing. Like Alaska's like, COVID's done. Fuck it.
Yep.
It's like, well, okay, Alaska, maybe you have a low enough population. Maybe everyone's had it. Maybe you know something I don't. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't go there. But the people who live there, who came from here, don't like it. So, maybe they're the exception, not the rule. But thinking about it, at least here, like Vermont's lockdown, we got, you can't go to the bar. Like bars that only held 10 people before are not open because they'd hold 2 people. That's fiscally irresponsible in an economic sense. But it's really weird.
We went to get food tonight from Ginger China. It's a upper scale Chinese restaurant locally here. Their dining room is completely shut down and has been. It's weird because they've got things rigged so they have this sliding window, and it doesn't actually open on the first shelf. You have to like bend down and stick your card in there, and she takes it and brings it back and puts your food through the hole down here on this lower shelf, and it's just nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say the same kind of here in Minnesota. So we're open. We just actually lifted some restrictions yesterday. So our bars can now stay open until 11, and they can now be open at only their max capacity of whatever the building is. So they can do that, which is nice because beforehand we were closed at 10 and 50% capacity. But, South Dakota, I'm from South Dakota. That's where I grew up. And they didn't do anything, like they didn't shut down, nothing. There wasn't really a mask mandate in place, nothing. And so to be here, we're still in mask mandates. Everybody still has plexiglass everywhere. It's that same kind of thing. Malls close at 7 instead of 9. Bars are the only thing that's open till 11. But like I said, normally that's not too much of a change. Like a lot of restaurants, I think, closed at 10 anyway before COVID. So the 11 is pretty much for the bars because bars here are usually 2 a.m. So
yeah, California, like I remember being 16 and everyone was so I'll use a current term. Everyone was simping over California. Like that's where you need to go to be an actor, and that's where you need to go to do this. You need to go to do this. And living in Vermont, I can understand that. Like, and if you grew up in the mountains where like you didn't even I live in the center of a pretty decent southern town, no food delivery. Zero, none. Like coming from the city, 3 restaurants could be closed. I still have double-digit options. You know what I mean? Like that's preposterous. There's not even enough people out here to do Uber Eats. There's just not enough people working it. Like it's insane. The app's just like error.
We didn't deliver to you.
Yeah, it's insane. And although I look forward to that changing in the future, it's really weird to think about it. And California's like I said, when I was a kid, everyone looked up to it. Now it's on fire. I mean, everyone's left. Joe Rogan left, Elon Musk left, tons of A-list actors. Not that they're the standard, like, oh, they're famous, so you should follow their lead, but they're the only people in the news, and they're doing it. So it's like, how many other people who are doing it? It's probably the majority,
Right.
And it's because the mayor's fucking everybody. I've seen so many things, and you've probably seen a lot of it too, that there was one lady whose restaurant spent $250,000 on repairs for outdoor dining. They had the most elegant, they had heats and fans and distance. They were so ready for the next 50 years of COVID. They dumped $250,000, $250 million, and $250,000, $250,000. Sorry. And they shut the restaurant down, Governor Newsom in California, and he allowed a movie premiere to use the same exact brand of tent in spitting distance from the restaurant, and allowed them to mingle, no masks, and shoot a movie. Even though some had masks, most didn't listen. And so when you saw the pictures, it was like, okay, no masks. 1 out of 50 is not. They were wearing masks.
Right.
And this lady's crying at her restaurant, watching these so close she can read names on their shirt. Like, and she's not allowed to serve people food, and her live stream is going down the drain. And, thinking about that being the majority of people, considering she's on the news, people less fortunate who weren't on the news, they're gone already. They've been gone. They're not coming back. I haven't been to Boston for years, but people who, we had my friend who I grew up with in Boston, a lot of stuff's gone, It's hard to think about. I was driving around in the biggest city in the South that I live closest to. I'm half an hour from Rutland, what they consider a pretty, one of the decent cities of Vermont, like the epicenter. There's only like 4. You got Burlington up north, and then you got Rutland in the middle, and then you got what's the, help me out here, Chris, Bennington, is that the big south one?
Bennington is to the south.
Yeah, and so really, like,
Brattleboro is on the southeast corner.
Okay.
By the corner of Massachusetts and New Hampshire.
Yeah, so 4 giant epicenters, and even that, I see tons of signs for restaurants that are just like gone. They they've got like white tape over the signs, and it's like, oh, well, I wanted to go there, and now they're gone.
Yep. I know, it's been really sad to see a lot of small businesses get hit and stuff too, because here, we shut down for a long time, then we opened back up, and it was still at that 50% capacity, but then they shut down again, like I think it was like before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, so right before Christmas. And there was all these business owners for especially restaurants who are like, why can people go shopping for Christmas and be here? And they're all lined up out the door, but I can't have 5 people in here to sit and eat. And so I'm really curious if we end up going through something like this again in the spring as it comes up, if this new, possible mutation brings us down again. I don't know how many more businesses will survive. And it's pretty sad to see everybody's work just go down the drain.
Yeah, no, I completely concur. And especially you've got 3 kids, so you have 200% more the reason to give a shit than I do. Not that having more kids means you have to care more, but I think about my daughter, like, I know that you can mitigate air and still be fine. Like, I'm not saying that, putting a dust mask on her is a bad thing, but I am saying that every single time that we go outside, or she could be near people, that could be alluded to a lot more than just, okay, put it on. Like, I agree with the people who say it's bullshit people wear it in their car because that's stupid. But from a super, super bubble boy perspective, that's safe. They put it on sanitized at home, and then they never touch it till they get home again. And that's their idea of safety. Problem is, no one does that. Like, people who are wearing it in their car, they adjust it, they pull it up like you and I do, because it's fucking uncomfortable and it's hard to breathe. But it's just, I've never put a mask on my daughter, and she sees it. Like, she's probably one of the only people not wearing a mask everywhere we go. She's been 2 up until today. And it's, I don't know to what detriment it, like, I've read up a lot on the hygiene hypothesis now that I've had kids. And Chris here turned me on to like George Carlin's joke about swimming in the Hudson. How could germs compete with swimming in raw sewage?
We were tempered in raw shit was
Yeah.
the line. But
And
also when it's a joke, but
Mhm.
there's truth in this. Nobody in his day was polio. Nobody in his neighborhood got polio. Why? Because they all swam in the Hudson River.
yeah, and I read up a lot, and it is really true. Not in the sense of like actual feces or excrement, but if you keep them away from like salmonella and then excrement mainly, everything else is healthy. Playing in mud and dirt, as long as it's not under an oil patch from a car or something, that's healthy. Playing in grass, like all of that's all perfectly good for immune system growth. But thinking about like, okay, so now I'm gonna strap a mask on her. And one of my coworker who actually told me the mountain story and who I'm hanging out with a lot more, he got a lung infection, and he says he doesn't know if it was due to the mask. And granted, he got a lung infection, whatever, but he said that he's never had one before in his life. And within a short parameter, with the mask being the only thing in his mind that he noticed being the difference, he got a lung infection. So now he's like, I'm not going to wear one. Like, that sucked. That was terrible. And explaining to me how that was like, okay, yeah, I haven't had that. And I've worn one since the start of this because I need money. Like I need to work.
Yep.
But when you wear one, are you wearing the pull up from the neck, easy to breathe, or are you wearing the blue medical one? What is your?
I was like, so the blue medical one, and of course, you can buy all those random ones at like Old Navy or Target or something, and it's just the regular, around. But at work, we did come out with logoed ones for our staff. We gave it to them, and then all of a sudden, we were like, nope, we got to do the surgical blue mask. So when I'm at work, I have to wear that, and everywhere else, I wear my Old Navy printed fun one.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I didn't think about that. I mean, I know people are capitalizing on it. I've already bought a few anime ones and stuff.
Just for capitalizing on it in day one. See, one of the lucky ones, I work outside, and my job requires that we are like 100 feet from anybody else.
Wow, so yeah.
Pretty sure that's beyond COVID transmission
standards.
Yeah, you're probably going to be safe. I'm happy that they got you guys out there working too. Like it's crazy to think about how many other things that we're not talking about are affected. You know what I mean? Like, there's people who have to go to work at power plants and stuff. Like that's why we have lights in some places. Right. And it's like, okay, well, what if you have to socially distance two buttons that activate our power? It's like, they're not going to move on their own. You're going to get a stick. You're going to push it with a stick. That's an extreme example, I know, but it's just, my job's taking a pretty big hit. I mean, they reorganized everything to make it more friendly for this, because why would you want to close, but no, I think it's going to go on a lot longer. And it seems to always be a bring back up topic. I dream of the day when COVID's not on the agenda.
Right. Yes.
Well, I mean, like Dani was saying earlier, is that to get another hit in the spring, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
it's going to be devastating, because we were just talking when we went to get our food, the way it looks, the way everything is set up, it's so smacked of post-apocalyptic world. I haven't had the zombie apocalypse, there hasn't been a nuclear war, but biological warfare, there's a problem there. You can still have post-apocalyptic conditions, and that's what it's coming to, because all these businesses are closing. The ones that are open are having to have shields. People are walking around at Walmart with total face shields on, because the air quality is that bad. We watch sci-fi movies about this for years and years and years.
Right.
It's coming true.
I always think of like the I Am Legend movie. They always say like we're kind of in that time and stuff too. It's like, oh God.
Yeah. No. Yes. In retrospect to that, but before we jump out of here, the whole thing with the lightning too is if the Arctic Circle warms up, there's what's known as the permafrost, and if that's not self-explanatory enough, it just never thaws, or it never has before. And now with warming it is, and it's got it just has a shitload of CO2 in it. And so they're extrapolating that if it were to melt away, it would be the equivalent of us existing in 3 times the amount of people for a very long time. Like it would cut the amount of time we have left on the planet before we really need to be like, let's go to Mars with Elon, in half. And I don't know, wildlife moving there was interesting. I thought that'd be crazy. Like I've ever since I grown up heard, oh, birds are, flying south for the winter or whatever. How crazy would it be if all the history books had to be changed? Well, they fly south or north based on the new update.
Right.
Yeah, but go ahead and plug your show. Anything you want for anyone to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Morning Bliss with Dani. And like I said, I'm the host for it. And it does come out Monday and Friday mornings. You can actually find it on all of your favorite platforms right now. But otherwise, really, mine's just a lifestyle kind of podcast, kind of like this one too. You can talk about really anything on it. Recently, it's just been stuff I've been really interested in and want to share about. But hopefully just an encouraging ear. We've talked a lot about COVID during this episode, and that's actually what sparked me to start my podcast. Was a lot of people were lonely, and I don't know if it was the algorithm in life, but I was getting all the sad, like, I need a friend, like people were just not feeling themselves. And so I thought, hey, what better way than a podcast? If you can have a friendly ear, why not?
Yeah, no,
So,
awesome. It was a delight having you, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of your links will be beneath the show. So if anyone wants to find you after, everything you just said about your show, they can find you right below the show at the top. And thank you very much for coming on. And I hope everyone has a great night.